Hello, everybody. Welcome to Into the Score. My name is Avishai Darash. I'm your host, as always, here for this podcast. Into the Score, we get a chance to talk to very interesting people from different facets of life, such as arts, culture, politics, entrepreneurship, and everything that comes in between. And today, I have with me the great CHAD Bilyeu. Like, I'll bill you later, you know? That's what he told me.
Great. Depends what I'm doing or what we're talking about, you know. But yeah,
Man,
thanks
great.
for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming, man. Thanks. We just started already to roll the conversation. Always it's like this. You've been here for 16 years, right? In Amsterdam already.
Yeah.
Take me from the beginning. Take me, because I read your book here. I just opened it. CHAD in Amsterdam.
Yep.
And it's a really beautiful forward. You were basically talking about the fact that you chose to be an immigrant. You talked about the price of migrating and the fact that you chose to do it by yourself. It didn't come out of necessity, patriotism, nationalism.
Right.
That is not the thing that pushed you.
Yeah, I would say when I was living in D.C. where I studied and worked, came of age and whatnot, and my first time visiting here was in the year 2000. So I came to smoke weed, of course, and I realized there were other things than weed here, and I liked it. So I started coming back. I think I visited here 5 times before I ultimately moved.
Right.
So I came in the year 2009. I had graduated. I had from Georgetown University in D.C. I had worked there as well concurrently while studying for like 7 years. Just wanted to change. So I went back home for a bit, and home is Cleveland, Ohio. And I was like, well, I don't want to get stuck here. I love Cleveland, but I don't want to be there. And I had escaped once, so I had to escape again, and I did that via school. So I applied to a few different schools in different places, and I got into the University of Amsterdam. So I came here, did a program.
What was the major?
American Studies.
American Studies.
Which a lot of people hear that and they laugh. And I'm like, yeah, I get it. But firstly, why are you guys teaching American Studies? You should ask yourself that. Well, then two, the reason I came is because I wanted to know what people over here thought about America. I personally think the Netherlands is the most Americanized of the European countries.
I agree with you.
So if anyone had the most educated opinion, it would be people here. So I came, did the study, didn't finish it, but stayed. So from there I did, all types of things like photography, a lot of diatribe and critique on Twitter. Just, basically just being an observer and doing a lot of, I guess a lot of cultural comparisons in a cultural relativist manner, and just giving my opinion of the place. So I came to do American studies and more so did Dutch studies. Didn't really do Dutch language studies, but, so came and then just, through parties and digital communication officers at cultural foundations. I've done a lot of stuff, and then kind of led me into doing this book, these comics.
But was it something that you wanted to do from like a young age, the thing of illustrating, making comics, bring the stories into like, graphic novel
That's a good question, because like when I was young, I actually drew more than I wrote. And there was a shift. I would say in my mid-teens, I started writing. But I didn't really know I was writing. It's more you doing stuff, writing raps, rhymes, or creating characters and writing a synopsis of the character and things like that. And that kind of slowly moved into me kind of delving into short stories when I was in my 20s. But I didn't really like put them out in the world. At best, I had, like a little blog or something online, and I would send it to friends. And so they would read stuff. And then I had a couple of professors in university who were like, you have a voice. And you're kind of like, not that I'm like the best writer in the world. I don't think who is, but it's more about having a voice and being able to say things in your own unique manner. and that's just how I write. And so I just kind of follow through on that. And photography, music was kind of my thing, and I just I would have thought young Chad would have thought I'd be drawing, but then I become the writer, and more so like a designer, editor, art director, like everything but the art itself.
Was it an organic process of going from drawing to writing, or like, because you said the young Chad would think that you would become the person illustrating it? Why? What is the thing that stopped you from pursuing that fully?
I think I'm one of these people who like to try different mediums. I always was like that. So I'm drawing, and then in my in 11th and 12th grade, we had a photography class in my high school. So we learned the analog process, and I naturally got an affinity for that from that class. And then I went on, and then I was with friends. We were in Cleveland. We were making a lot of hip hop music, so we're doing that as well. So that kind of overshadowed the art. But I always find that I always have some form of artistic expression,
Right.
and it might vary. I'm kind of one of those guys who can do a lot of stuff pretty good. Like, I'm not going to be the best film editor, but I know how to edit film. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not the best producer, but I can make you a beat. So from that, I don't know. It's just like wherever you feel like, which is kind of nice, because you're like, oh, I want to paint something. You can paint something. Or you're like, oh, I'm going to go shoot some rolls and go in the dark room, develop that myself. So I liked having those options. And then you just kind of, I just sort of gravitated towards one for a few years, and then you try something else.
Yeah.
But there always seemed to be some degree of writing or storytelling in what I did, whether it was photography, whether it was, writing rhymes for hip-hop tracks, even in the drawing, because, I'm young, I'm basically making comics, which is writing in itself in a way. So writing was always kind of like the underlying foundation, I would guess. Just this need to tell a story was really, I think, now that I look at it, that's really what was always there, the writing, the storytelling facet.
Yeah, so basically like because the common denominator of what you're saying is the storytelling.
Yeah.
So this eclectic way of approaching creation, in the sense of like photography, writing, drawing, you always wanted to tell a story. And when I look at your work, I see a lot of like the urban aspect of it, like really like these stories of, something that it's from the mundane, but also from the very exciting aspect of it.
Yeah.
Why are you like putting the black strips on the eyes?
You're talking about
re-up.
the re-up.
Yeah.
Which is a re-up. It's these black, I don't know if you can see it from here, but like on the first page you see it, introduce it. I don't know if you guys can zoom in on that thing. Yeah. And there's these black strips over a lot of the characters' eyes, and that's to protect their identity, the cartoon avatar's identity. I just thought it would be a nice touch, because when you're watching these things with someone who either trying to maintain innocence or protect their identity, they either pixelate the head or they got that bar through. So all the people in this story, and the re-up is a story about when I used to sell weed in Washington, D.C. while I was studying at Georgetown and also working there. I'm just trying to show like these were the people who were involved in the criminal activity. So out of respect, really, for the profession, for those who took the risk, I black out the eyes. I'm the one telling the story, so my eyes aren't blacked out in it. But for all the other folks, it's also like kind of a cheat code, so you can see who is explicitly a seller of contraband of some sort.
Yeah.
So that's why I did it. Just a little kitschy thing.
But I like it. It's cool because you understand that, okay, they are being involved in something that is illegal.
Yeah.
So to say, but you are not the one. You're the one that is being exposed completely, also in the storytelling and also like in basically putting yourself out there.
Right.
But I want you to take me, like, you're arriving to Amsterdam in 2009. You have American Studies at the UvA, right? How is that first year for you there?
Okay, first year, I had a slight advantage because I had visited so much. And when I visited, like those last few times I visited, maybe the last 3 times, I'd stay about a month. Or maybe like a week, go somewhere else in Europe, come back, stay 2 weeks or whatever. But spend enough time, and I rented a bike and just went around town, wherever. Got lost. That's what I did in D.C. too. I had a car though. So you get there, drive every night. And I would ask people in D.C. like, hey, I'm going on a ride. Y'all want to come? The people who lived in the dorm with me. And some like, yeah, where are you going? No idea. So I did the same thing. So when I came here, I knew the lay of the land fairly well. Enough that I had a leg up on the other international students.
Right.
Maybe even on a lot of the Dutch students too. Because one thing I think people don't understand is like not everybody here is from Amsterdam. So it's something I learned actually when I went to school. And there's a lot of people who come from elsewhere. So I knew my way around. So I was trying stuff. And I'm like, and I also didn't mind doing stuff on my own. I think when you come, there were a lot of international students. Apologies to them, but they had a very incestuous relationship. They hung out with each other all the time. You know what I mean? And I'm like, it's not going to be me. I'll come to your party, but I'm not hanging out with you 24/7. So I went out, just kind of put myself out there and started trying things, meeting people who were actually from the city or from the country. One thing that kind of was like a gift and a curse was my presence on Twitter. So I used Twitter. Twitter was pretty much my free psychiatrist when I lived here. So all the stuff that I was seeing, I would take photos, I'd post them up there. I would have commentary on the culture, what I liked, probably more what I didn't like, and just being honest. And things were going great those first 3 months, I would say. And then all of a sudden you see Zwarte Piet. And I was like, quite taken aback. And then quite taken aback by the response, where people were basically telling me, no, it's not racist, you're racist. And I'm like, all right.
It's quite shocking for someone coming from the outside to see that.
Yeah, and you're like
how obvious it is also. Yeah.
And so that was something. And then, it's one of these things where you're having a good time. You're meeting ladies, you're going to parties. It's Amsterdam. We doing drugs. We having a good time. This is a fun city. So I'm having that fun, but then also kind of, I would say at first, really in my own little bubble with people who I knew and loved and kind of just doing my own thing. Not doing my schoolwork so much, That was really like tertiary. I was there to learn the city and have fun. Those were my prime directives. And I did that, and got into things, and then just you meet people, not that anyone's better than other folks, but you end up meeting folks who are doing cool stuff, and then they know you. And I mean, I really walk around the city. I was just kicking it yesterday, and I run into 3 people I know. I live on Haarlemmerstraat. To go to the north to the I study and back, I see people. And I'm loquacious, so I see him, we start talking. So I'm talking for 30 minutes, and I'm like, damn, man, I may not want to admit it, but I really am like, I'm a fixture here, and I've done things, tried to also contribute, not just take, but also try to contribute culturally.
Yeah. Give back to
the
community.
It's something I feel I didn't do as much in D.C. because I was more studying, working, selling drugs. And here I felt like I really tried to give back. We were throwing, I remember I had some friends, and there was one Finnish friend of mine, and we would go to parties, and not that the parties were bad, but we had an idea for the sort of party we wanted. So we were like, let's make our own party. So we did. And
what does that mean?
We basically went to, actually he went to Café Belgique, which is a good spot to start if you ever want to do something in the city. Because Belgique, you can usually DJ. You're only going to get paid $50 for the night, but they'll let you do it. And you can bring your records or whatever you need. So we came, and we had friends who all DJ'd. And it was really not that I'm a real DJ, more like a selector. I try to be careful with that, you know, because people say I'm a DJ, and it's like, you can't even mix. So my one Finnish friend, Jussi, shout out Jussi, J Bags, and he taught me, like with vinyl, and not that I was good, but I began with that, and then CDJ, and then I can pretty much play decently on anything. So we started doing the show, and our other Finnish friend, Valtteri, and he, one day, we're chilling, he's like, thinking about this party. And he's like, Chad, I have no name for party. You know how Finnish people sound.
Yeah.
He's like, we call it another bullshit night from Cleveland.
Another bullshit night from Cleveland.
And I was like, that's funny, because I'm from Cleveland, so everyone thinks I made it up. I'm like, no, I didn't make it up, but it's hilarious. So through that, we started just throwing our own parties. And not that they were big. It's not like it's baseline or nothing like that. But we were throwing our own parties, bringing our own friends, and started hopping around, doing stuff at Schaum, Blauwe Theehuis, Canvas, Roost, Bittersweet. We've done a lot of shows, a lot of places, you know, and had a lot of fun. And it was just cool. And that just, if nothing else, you know, it showed a certain initiative. We would throw art shows too. And we're like, you know what, we got a lot of talented friends. Let's just do our own thing. So I guess early on, I really got this mentality of like, go for your own. Because I guess you come here as an outsider and you want to find your place. And so is it like, are you going to ask to be included with established groups and parties? And by parties, I mean groups of people. Or are you going to make your own? And sometimes it's easier to just do your own thing.
Yeah.
You know, and
build your own community.
Build your own community.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we did. And we did that. You know, we threw parties for about 5 years. Had another friend, had another party concurrently running called the Donut Factory. It's more hip-hop-ish, disco, soul, funk. So we had a wide array of stuff. And at a bullshit night, who knew what we were going to play? And they were very drug-addled, raucous parties. Very fun. Very fun. So that was fun to do. I'm very happy I have nothing to do with entertainment nowadays, but for that time, coming here and just to kind of get ingratiated in the city, it was really cool, really a good time.
Yeah. So you're building, this is because you just took me through a lot of years, but I want to take it like step by step.
Sure. Pardon if I could bring it back.
No, it's all good. So you said you didn't finish your American studies. You didn't finish in UVA. So how long were you there?
It was a 1-year program, and I didn't write my thesis.
You didn't write it?
No. I had other things to do, like party.
Yeah.
And so I ended up...
I like how you say it so seriously, you know?
Partying is serious business, right? But so I ended up... It's funny because, you know, you get into this visa game, which is something I never had to think of. So the year's almost up, and I'm like, oh, man, like I need another visa. How am I going to do it? So at the time, I wasn't certain if they were going to let me stay another year to complete my thesis. So what I did is I applied again to the University of Amsterdam for another study.
South American studies.
That would have been great. I did new media. So they let me in. And then, whatever, I'm here, man. I'm permanent now. So, like, once I got in, and what I noticed, like, things were quite disjointed. It wasn't like at the University of Amsterdam, like they had a direct line to, you know, the Day, who give out, you know, the citizenship and whatnot. Yeah. So they sent my ID for another year, and I got my, you know, for Blythe's document for another year, and I immediately dropped. So I'm like, boom, now I got another year. So, yeah, it was just, and I'm like, okay.
But that's the thing with these government bodies or like institutions, they're pretty disjointed. Like they're archaic, they're big, they move very slowly. It's like you can toss something into the mix, they get confused, then you get another 6 months, you know.
Right, and that's exactly what I did. And it's funny because like I come from, you know, Cleveland is a poor, segregated city where we're alchemists. We turn lead into gold.
Yeah.
So like
Weed into profit. Yeah.
Weed into profit. So like I kind of had this criminal mentality. Not that I'm like a violent criminal, but I'm like, these are the rules. How can we
Like a
weave
hustler
around
mentality.
it? Yeah. And so I was like, I bet if I do this, I'll get another year. Got another year. And then I was like illegal for a bit.
Yeah.
After that year. And this is, again, just a year I'm futzing around, throwing parties, not doing a lot, running thin on money too. So I was illegal for a stretch. And then through another loophole, I ended up getting a job at a certain European Cultural Foundation as a digital communications officer. So then I was able to stay, but my citizenship or resident alien status was connected to the job. And I thought, actually, when I got this job, I'm like, oh, I'm good. I'm gonna work. I'm gonna get the permanent contract, and I'll be good. But it was a really bad job.
It was a bad job.
Yeah, well. I mean, I thought you're going to a cultural foundation, and I'm like, well, I am a photographer. I'm throwing parties. I'm actually doing art shows. I'm actually doing cultural things. That's not what those foundations are about. Those foundations are about politics and money.
Yeah.
And
subsidies. Yeah.
Yeah, sycophancy a lot, and promoting a certain sort of art that the highbrow folks deem as worthy.
Propaganda.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, so street art is art and graffiti is vandalism.
Yeah.
And then the attitude that comes along with that.
Yeah.
So I worked there a few years, and and then along the way I met a lady who was also, after that, very happy to sponsor me. And then we end up like, we were a thing, and then we got married. And here I am.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then, how did it work actually with not being legal for a minute? Like, do you get reprimanded for it, or like?
No, they don't. I mean, basically, it's just like you don't exist.
First of all, I gotta say it's so nice to talk to an English native speaker. I have no idea.
I do what I can.
Loquacious, words, and I'm like, yes, bro, bring it on.
Good shit. Appreciate that.
Cornucopia,
plethora thereof.
Plethora of
you know
information coming my way.
Indeed. So, like, your question again?
How was it actually dealing with that? Like, you had a synaptic space of just being not legal, right?
Right. Yes, you're right. Really, it's just kind of like you don't exist. I would guess your main concern would be not to be arrested or injured, because then they would know who you are. I actually have a friend who.
So you got to stay like invisible, actually.
Kind of, yeah. I mean, people, they're still in the streets. They're gonna be out here. It's just you can't work legally. You can't register. So it's like, how do you make your money? Where do you live? How do you live? And then there's this concern that looms over you. Like, imagine if you get hit by a car. Not your fault. You didn't do anything wrong. You go to the hospital. They're like, oh, it's not registered. You're going to be on your way out.
Yeah.
I believe I didn't get caught during that time, but it's quite, and psychologically, it's very deflating. It's something I wouldn't wish on anybody. And if you haven't gone through it, you just don't know. And I even realized, like, I didn't even go through it as bad as a lot of people did. I was able to find this loophole. But without finding that loophole to get this job, and the reason I was able to get the loophole was because the job was not based in the Netherlands. It was technically based in the EU. So they could hire me without the normal qualifications and criteria. Usually they have to prove that no one in the Netherlands can do your job but you to hire you.
Yeah.
Which is, I
It's
don't
like,
know.
what is a high-skill immigrant or something?
High-skill immigrant sort of thing. And so I never really was able to benefit from that. I've never been taxed on 70% of the income.
Yeah.
So it's something for me, like I feel more immigrant-like than expat-like. Even though I know I'm American and most people say you're an expat.
Yeah.
But that gets into
It's like exceptional skill, right? Or something like that.
I guess. I mean, I don't know. Do you think everybody working at Nike is exceptional?
No.
you know. But they got a job. They do a job. And which is fine. It's just, I just had a different path.
And how was it for you to navigate like this job? You said you didn't like it, the digital communication officer, which sounds like very complex, complicated, and
I was the
made up.
tweeter.
A tweeter, yeah, okay.
I was the Facebooker.
You were that's what I mean. You know?
Yeah.
Digital communication officer. It's like, Joshua, oh yeah, Joshua. Joshua is a digital communication officer.
We all know one of these guys, you know.
Joshua. That's hilarious.
Man, it's tough because you get in this weird situation where you're like, yeah, I want to be here, but to be here, I have to work at this job. I actually, oddly enough, I think it was during my second, maybe it was my first or second contract. Because initially I was supposed to get one for a year. That's what the ad said. They gave me one for 6 months. And I'm like, there was a lady there who really didn't like me.
No?
I don't know. She abhorred me. And the feeling was mutual. But I was told to do something that had nothing to do with my job. So I'm like, okay, I see what you're trying to do. I was like, yeah. So I played a little dumb. And I was like, I'll do it. Just I work best if you can write it down for me. So can you send me an email exactly what you want me to do? So I had a paper trail. When it came time for the renewal of the contract, they didn't want to renew it because they gave me a very bad yearly review that was based on my job description. However, I have a superior telling me that I can't do the job that I've been hired to do. So they judged me on my job description. So we actually had to go get an intermediary. Wow. And the intermediary was like, well, he's right. And he has the proof. So you have to judge him on the quality of the work that he did. And if you don't, he'll probably have a lawsuit against you.
Yeah.
So, of course, I got my third and what would be my last contract at this place. You know, but again, it's at those first few years, it was always, you know, you have to finesse the system. You really,
Absolutely.
you even have to like think illegally. And it's a drain on you psychologically, emotionally, and you're just like I was doing it. I wasn't getting paid much, you know, and I'm like, for what I'm going through, this just isn't. If this is the life that I have to live, yeah, I'll go back to the States. You know?
Yeah, that's what I was about to ask you.
Yeah.
Like, when did you have moments that you were just like, man, what am I? Like, this is not worth the effort, you know? Like,
definitely. And then you question like, well, why am I here if I can't get anything else? Because I'd look for other gigs. But I was kind of told by a lot of the multinational corporations where I could be hired, I would usually do pretty well in an interview. And then, you know, you have your second, maybe your third, and you go up. And here, usually when you go up corporate, once you hit middle management, it's going to be a Dutch person. That's just how they roll. So I'd hit the Dutch person, the final boss, and they just weren't feeling me. And so one guy actually... It was at it's booking. It was booking.com to be a photo editor, which I could do. I knocked out the first 2 interviews, and then I meet this Jan Willem type guy, and he wasn't feeling me. And I'm like, you know what? I can feel the disdain. It's palpable.
Yeah.
I don't want to waste your time. Definitely don't want you to waste mine. But what's your problem with me? And he was like, you're too much of an independent thinker.
What the fuck?
I said, so you guys are looking for like automatons? And he was like, basically, yes.
Wow.
And I'm like, all right, I'm probably not the guy for the job.
Wow, you're too much of an independent thinker.
Yeah.
And it's like this like back-end way of saying you have a problem with authority, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. And it's like, dude, I mean, it's a job. I'll do the job. Doing the job was never the issue. And that's what can get tricky sometimes. You know, for all of its litany of faults, the one thing that I like with the States is that, like, I feel if you were in the States, no one would think you weren't American. You would just be, boom, yeah, whatever. He's tall.
Yeah.
Whatever. but you're there and it's fine, and you don't have to always act a certain way.
No.
And here I feel that there's a certain, there can be a certain need to assimilate.
There is. I can tell you that I speak Dutch very well, like really well, and I will never be a part of the Dutch clique. Never. And my wife is Dutch. My kids are Dutch. It's like it. But there is something also just. I think culturally, I just don't.
Right.
It's not fully. The assimilation is to a certain extent. Also, at least my experience was here. I will never be a part of them for real.
Right.
Know?
And with that said, do I want to be a part?
That's another question. Yeah.
Of a culture that is so exclusionary? Not really. But do I want to live in Amsterdam? Sure. And here I am.
Tell me more about like this perception of a culture that is exclusionary. Like, how do you? No, I find it very interesting and accurate, especially because there's a lot of compensation happening of like inclusivity and diversity and everything is open here.
Right. If you look at the ads around town, you would think, wow, these guys, this is the Rainbow Coalition that Jesse Jackson spoke of. It's Martin Luther King's dream.
But now it's more Jesse Smollett, yeah.
Yeah, whoa, man, that guy. What a clown, what a maroon. So, yeah, I think it's funny because I remember there was some campaign here. It was like Amsterdam 182 or something, and it was like a project. They were supposed to represent the 182 different ethnicities that exist in really? Amsterdam. Wow. And a 181 maybe it was, and I'm like, okay, that's cool and all, but what is the representation? And like people are just here. Like I said, I really think when you hit middle management, it becomes autochtone.
Yeah.
From what I've seen. From my experience. I can't speak for everything. But I do think there is like, it's quite a paradox here because, as you said, your Dutch is great. My Dutch is A2 verdieping at best. Mm-hmm. And I'm very hard-headed, very obdurate. I came here and I was trying. Goedemiddag, hoe gaat het met jou? And people are like, yeah, very good. We can speak English.
We can speak the English.
We can speak the English taal. Yeah, it's geen problem for me. And I was like, okay, cool. Then we can speak English. I'm lazy. So I'm kind of like, what am I supposed to fight through this? Like, do I have to speak like on such a high level? I don't know. And I know a lot of people such as yourself and my wife Dutch. I know people who speak excellently, but it seems to me they still had to find their own way. It's not like they were now they're above middle management or they're the CEO. No, these people still have to have an entrepreneurial spirit. You're slightly, you've been slightly sequestered kind of in the society. Absolutely. It's not like you're one of them and then there is a thing. I do believe there is a certain sense of alienation, othering. You know, it's something I deal with in my comic. I'll be at a bar on occasion, not as much as I used to, but it used to happen a lot. And I'm just sitting there drinking, I don't know, a kopstootje. And people look at me and they're like, where are you from? And you're like, and I get that it's supposed to be an innocent question. I hear it from their end, but then you have to consider it from my end. So basically you were looking at me and you're like, he's not from here. I need to know where this fellow's from. It always gave me a zoo vibe. Like you read the little thing and, because it's not like they're asking me because we're going to be best friends or we're going to hang out later. No. They're asking to satiate their own curiosity. Yeah, exactly. And I get it. I do. And it really depends on the who's asking, how they ask. But it does get a bit tiresome because it's a reinforcement of, well, you're not from here. Yeah. I need to know. I need to qualify your existence here right now.
Exactly.
And that is, again, I'm not trying to. But I understand why they do it.
It really resonates with me, especially also like with when I get these compliments of like, oh, je spreekt zo goed Nederlands. And then I'm like, yeah, you too.
Well, a lady just told me the other day I speak very good English. I said, well, I would fucking hope so.
Can you imagine?
Bedanked.
Badonkadonk, yeah.
Badonkadonk, yeah, that's when the girl walked by and you're like, oh.
No, but what I mean with that is like that I really, it really resonates with this, like, you can be here for 20 years, 25 years, but you will always, like, there will be like alienation that is happening, that it's like, no, you're not. I'm hearing some licht accent. I'm hearing like light accent. Where are you from? And then it's like, at the beginning I was like, oh wow, they really appreciate my Dutch and stuff and like this. But then at some point it became like, oh, I will never be a part of you. Like, I'll never be a part of your cliques.
No, and
like ever.
Which is cool, because one of the beautiful things about the city, that it is so diverse, and you got people from everywhere for one, but then also not everyone who's from here has that mentality. And I do think it is the majority of the people who are from the country or the city, but not everyone thinks like that. Some people just like, yo, I'm judging you off your character, the quiddity of you.
Yeah.
Not where you're from or,
yeah.
You know, because I've asked people like, well, what, I tell you, okay, I'm from Cleveland. And I'm not really a nationalist, so if you ask me, I usually say I'm from Cleveland. I don't say I'm from the United States of America. I don't do that.
America.
You know, and I don't do that. So, I mean, have you been to Cleveland? Fuck no.
No.
Why would you go? No, I mean, respectfully, it's not an Amsterdam level city. Some people have, and when they have, oh, cool, that can build a rapport and a nice conversation. But I'm all about conversation and really like meeting people, sharing the moment, but not when it's like, oh, I'm just being inquisitive, just to know. Just for it to make sense to me.
Yeah.
You know, that to me is something that...
So they can quantify actually their perception of you.
Of you.
Yeah.
And I guess, I don't know. I mean, it's like botany. It's quite a... I mean, you're dealing with folks who got stuff from their ancestors used to get things from all over the world and partition and sell. So they wanted to know exactly what it was. And sometimes these are cultural ramifications from who you were before. And this is a nation of traders. This is, everything has to make sense to know its worth.
Yeah. And also negotiating is really not negotiating. No, negotiating, that's not the right word, but keeping it calm and calculated, because you got to trade. There are no natural resources. I mean, it's water. And they got to make sure that for them to have the best deal possible, they cannot antagonize certain, let's say, parties within the deal.
Yes.
So they keep neutral all the time.
Right.
But it's like...
and I'm not... Yeah, and that is a thing, that there is a predilection towards a neutral demeanor. And I'm wild.
Yeah.
I'm more hype. A lot of times, like, I'm talking about something, I'm like, what the fuck? You know, if you're, why are you so mad? I'm like, I'm not mad. I'm hype.
Yeah.
There's a difference. It's just how I roll. So, again, I get it. I mean, this is part of the whole thing of having left your country. Because you come with your norms and values and behavior and accents, because we all have accents.
Right.
And you come to a new spot where the expectations and nationalism exists everywhere. In the States, here, everywhere. So, I mean, I get it when people are like, you have an accent.
Yeah.
But it's like, yeah, but so do you. Because you're talking to me like this. But I understand what you said. If you speak English, you guys all speak English. We're used to accents in the English language.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's the commerce language, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's the lingua franca. So you're going to hear these accents everywhere. It's not like because someone has an accent, you can't decipher what they're saying. Like, how do you expect me to speak Dutch? Like, you think I'm going to sound like Andre Hazes? I don't think so, bro.
Yeah.
I'm going to sound like Chad speaking Dutch.
Absolutely.
Who can that now?
Yeah, who can that now? Exactly. And it's also this thing of like, to make this effort and go through, like, I just spoke about the other day on the podcast here with a great guitar player about the price of immigration, you know?
Ooh,
the price that you have to pay. Because it's like, I was naive enough to think that I will find a home here. But what happened to me, it's not that I didn't find a home in Amsterdam. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that don't have a home anywhere. You get what I'm saying? Like in Israel, if I go to Israel now, I don't feel at home there because I already migrated. I left. I changed myself. I assimilate to the society that I'm living in. But here, I wasn't born here and grew up in the language and the customs and the culture. So I'm like in this limbo, in this like gray area of actually no man's land. And that's something that I hear actually from quite a lot of immigrants that pass the threshold of 10 years.
Yes.
Usually after 10 years, it's like all of a sudden like it gets murky.
Right. That's a wonderful point. It's something that a lot of us don't, you're just not ready for it because you don't know it's coming. And if you want to be an immigrant, expat, you got to be ready to become, a man without a country. Because like you said, I mean, I'm just reiterating what you say. You go to a new spot, you're not going to fit in there completely. Unless you do you would have to do like Ayaan Hirsi Ali levels of assimilation, and they still kicked her out.
Yeah.
So that's a lesson for me. But then when I go to the States, that's when I see how Dutch I've become.
Yeah.
Oh, hi, hey, how are you doing? Like, yeah, man, just cut to the chase, bro. I don't have time for this.
It's so nice to meet you. It's like I don't even know you.
It's really not that nice. So like, you really
hyperbolic American.
Oh man, they're so and it does reek of insincerity, doesn't it? It's like,
I mean, everything just revolves around money. And
no, and it's less so here. Yeah. Even in the home of modern capitalism, it's still less here, and that is again, it's a good thing. We're talking about all the fucked up shit they do. Let's talk about some of the gangster stuff they do. And it is here, I was talking with my boy, like you can live a decent life for much cheaper. And also they're not as ostentatious as Americans are. If I was, everybody like a rapper. They got Rolls Royces and cars. Like, how'd you get that foreign car over here? Chains and the wealth is seen. Here, not as much.
No, not at all.
Not as much. And that is a good thing. So, like, there is a certain leveling.
Modesty, there's much more modesty.
There is more modesty, for sure.
Yeah.
And you've got hubristic pricks everywhere, but it's not the same here with that. I had to get that to him.
Yeah. And when did you realize that you had that switch? Like, that when you moved but you went to the States to visit and you're like, I'm much more Dutch.
And that's the funny thing, because I don't know what I'm much more, but I know, because there's things here that it happens, I'm like, I can't stand it. And you go to the States and it's still, you're like, oh. And maybe things that I didn't like even when I was there, but that feeling's exacerbated now that I don't have to deal with it on this quotidian basis. And you're like,
yeah.
So I guess it would probably be, it's probably around, because when I first came, I didn't go home as much. And I've been going home a lot more lately because I do book festivals and comic book festivals and tours. So I go home a lot more, and there's things I like, but maybe it was, just before Corona, I started to notice, like, the stuff that would really annoy me. And I'm like, oh, like, yeah, and again, like, I don't feel simpatico here. I don't feel simpatico there.
Yeah.
So you kind of really become, but with that said, in a good way, you really become a true individual.
Exactly.
And not individualistic. You become an individual. You become you. You really feel what you're about, and you see. And I'm sure, like, if we were to go somewhere else, we'd learn even more.
Yeah.
And you get a bit of it on a vacation, but it's not the same.
Yeah.
Nowhere near the same.
When you start dealing with the authorities, or when you start dealing with, like, making money in the place, when you start dealing with the community and society of the place, in order to survive, or in order to actually create some kind of sustainability for yourself, you're not a tourist anymore. Then it's like you gotta get into the weeds of society there. I wanted to ask you about the re-up. What was the thing that brought you to write it? And is it like some sort of your way of keeping your roots also? Some connection, some some channel to your roots there? Because this is extremely American, like extremely like your roots.
Yeah,
you know?
no, that's real true. Great question, because especially like I never really thought of it as like I'm trying to make a story that, you know, keeps me connected directly to my roots. I guess what it was is I had done the 6 issues of CHAD in Amsterdam. And you get to a point where you're doing something and, you know, when you create, you don't want to be known as the one-trick pony.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, what would be a natural progression, but also give distance from this project? And not that I'll never do CHAD in Amsterdam again or make more issues. I might. At the moment, I've got other stuff I'm doing, but I probably will. We'll see. But I was like, okay, I'll do something autobiographic again, but what's like really worth discussing? And so I kind of looked at my life and I was like, the only thing that I have that's very unique within the comic book realm is the fact that I used to sell. And again, I say drugs, but it was mostly weed. I sold a little bit of coke. That comes up later. It's a whole nother game. But I thought this is interesting because, you know, comic people, man, they're like social reprobates. They're weird and geeks, and a lot of them couldn't have done what I did. Sorry. I mean, I'm an affable dude. I kind of handle business. So I thought within the realm of comics, this would be a very unique story. Yeah. So I was more thinking along the lines of the comic world. What would be different? And I have learned since making it, like here, people aren't as interested in this as they are in CHAD in Amsterdam, which makes complete sense. But then, you know, I think when you're doing a story, you have the subject matter and then you have the themes. So I think once you get past the subject matter, you really see the themes.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of similar themes that are in CHAD in Amsterdam. Again, I'm a guy who's going to and working at Georgetown. Now, the way I got into Georgetown was the back door because I got the job there. And when you get a job at these universities in the States, you get free tuition. So I literally had to work 1 year. Then that was one of the benefits that I could take advantage of. So again, it's very similar to my experience here, where I kind of come in through the back door and make it work. I'm like a serial infiltrator, you know? So that I thought, and I didn't notice that at first, but I'm like, oh, these stories are actually quite similar in the fact that you end up in a spot where one could say you're not supposed to be, but there you are. So that was kind of my thing. And I guess to your point, there's definitely got to be some subconscious thing where I was like, okay, I want to do something related to my life, my previous life. Because if you only read CHAD in Amsterdam, you only know me there. But I wanted to show people too. It's kind of like a prequel.
It's like the origin story.
Kind of, to a degree. Yeah, sort of. And I wanted to give them like that Better Call Saul to the Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
Like now, if you mess with me here, you read this, you'll really see, oh, okay. And then I came here, so I didn't have to do that stuff, you know? And, but it is nice to do
Why
it.
didn't you, may I ask, like, what is the thing that got you to stop selling weed or drugs? Like, except for the danger that it entails, but here, why didn't you do it here?
Well, okay. I don't do it here because, one, my acumen of the language is not good enough to do it. Sure, you could do whatever with tourists or expat stuff, but I'm like, no, I don't. I feel you would need to be able to navigate adroitly to do that here.
Yeah.
You know?
It's life and death situation.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, secondly, it's like I did it. I don't want to do that. And I came to a realization, which is kind of part of the ending, but it won't blow the ending of the book. But you kind of just get to the point where you're like, is this all I can do? Is sell fucking drugs? Which I was pretty good at it. I had a point where I thought I was going to get caught and I didn't. And then I came back. And this is kind of why this is called the re-up. Because the re-up's actually a military term. And it was used when men would re-enlist in the military. They were re-upping their enlistment. But it's also a drug term. You re-up, I'm running low. It's a drug seller term. initially. And it's like I'm running low on weed. I need to re-up, get some more pounds.
Yeah.
So I re-upped at a point and got back into it. And then I was doing it quite well. Like to the point that it just became part of my life. It became too normal. And I really was like, dude, I can't be out. Like, I'm risking my life for what? Money? You know?
It's basically that, right?
And then I'm like, dude, I just got at the time, I think Georgetown was like ranked the 18th best university in the States. I got this degree. I can't do anything with that. I'm going to keep selling weed, which eventually became legal as well in D.C. So that would have been a whole nother thing. And I'm like, I'm not moving on and selling more powerful illicit substances. So I was like, I gotta stop doing this. I got to risk. Sure, I took a risk to do that. But I felt like I got to take a risk at life, real life, and try to be a part of a society and try to, again, that need to contribute. That need to, sure, I mean, you're living on the outskirts providing people with what they use to party. And there's a need for that. But is that what you want to do with your life? And, I mean, we've seen all these movies from Scarface to Blow to Snowfall to Breaking Bad. None of this stuff really ends well.
Actually, I don't think I ever, for sure not in the podcast, but I used to do it when I was in New York. And I got mixed up with some people pretty quickly, and like that was like back in 2009. And when I had a weapon pulled on me, and then I was kind of like, what the fuck are you doing? You know?
Right.
It's like, I didn't come here to do this. I came to play music, and somehow I found myself in a situation that was very, let's say, unsafe in that sense. And then afterwards, when I met friends of mine back in the day from New York, and they came to visit me here, they said something that really opened my eyes. They said, we thought you're going to end up either in prison, dead, or in a mental institution, you know?
Right.
So that's how you saw me. You saw me in these three, like these were my endings.
Yeah.
And I didn't touch it. I didn't do it since then. Like I didn't, and it was similar to, of course, we have completely different, like we're different people, but in that sense of like, so this is what I'm doing. Like,
Yeah.
This is what I'm going to do.
This is
also.
it. And especially when you're like you got talent, you're like, and that's the thing, really, it's kind of, and I'll say this here, and again, not to blow the story, the whole book will probably be done in November. You guys will get an invite to the release party and all that.
Nice,
but
nice. Let's do another one of those before.
Oh, word, I'd love, this is great. So the thing was, it's like, you take a risk to break rules and be a criminal. Why don't you take a risk to like be a positive member of society?
Exactly.
And it's not easy either. But it's safer, and the reward is bigger. Once you get, I was addicted to money. Not so much that I'm like, I'm gonna make millions, and I didn't. But like, I was making good money for me.
Yeah.
And I've heard certain people here, like some rich Dutch guys who probably inherited and flipped that. But they're like, well, how much were you making at your peak? And I'm like, at my peak, I was making about $5,000 a week. Which to them, they're like, well, that's not good money. I said, for you, it's not good money. For me and what I wanted to do and my spending habits, man, all I did was eat good, buy sneakers, comics, music, go to shows, travel. That's pretty much what
good,
I did.
Man. 20 grand a month, that's not bad, man.
And I was blowing most of it, of course, and saving a little. And sure, hindsight, you wish you saved most, but whatever. You develop those horrendous spending habits. But I really felt like, hey, for me, I mean, I don't know what you need a yacht or you need some big home. That's cool. I didn't need that. But for me, the one thing I will say, having that money enabled me to eat better. I was able to try. I'm like, let me go to this restaurant. Let me get a table at the club with a bottle, like just to feel what it's like. Wasn't my thing, but I tried it. But I could walk up, like, what's the next plane leaving to? Oh, San Francisco. Yeah, let me get it. Cash, bow, go, no luggage. for me, that was something. And it made me a much more cosmopolitan person who was eating all types of food, traveling when I wanted to. And maybe that's a low bar, but it helped make me who I am, you know? And I think it was also something, plus, to tell you the truth, I was paying for my vacations to come here with that money. And then I come here, and I'm sitting in, you know, I'm in Abraxas or Sibiri smoking with no worries. It was a beautiful thing, you know? Yeah. So that's what I did. It wasn't like I wasn't a kingpin.
What was your age back then? Like how?
I was probably, let me think, it was about 2003 to 2008. So I was about 28 to 32, 33 or so. About that. That was my age range.
Like cruising.
Just chilling. Yeah. No worries. Like, dude ask you for money on the corner. The squeegee man, here, man, here's a 20. Oh, thanks, Slim. No problem, man.
What do you think of the state of the states right now?
The state of the states? I think it's F'd in the A. It's horrible. They've elected Beelzebub. It's madness. It really is. For me, looking at, especially, this is the worst I've ever seen the states in my lifetime. Wow. The vitriol and stupidity and just, I guess one would say, the jealousy and the avarice, it's out of control. The xenophobia, also the hiatus between people. Like, I just don't see, I guess I'll start by saying, I don't see how you can look at this guy who's the president and be inspired and have him capture your imagination that you're like, I'm going to vote for this guy. He was just saying.
I think people just got cornered. I mean, they saw Kamala, they saw Biden, they were just like...
That is true, but also I think, and this, I've said this before, it makes the comments a little spicy. This is like a direct result of a black president. A lot of people, whereas folks like me were like, oh, the brother won. A lot of people were like livid that guy got in. And they see Kamala. I mean, I even know black people who are like, I'm not voting for that bitch. And I'm like, I'm not voting for Trump, but I'm not getting off my ass to go vote against him. Yeah. And I'm like, really? And sure, Democrat Party, they're out of touch, I would also say.
Absolutely.
They play... There's one thing you got to give to the right-wingers, and they've been at it for a long time, really, I believe, post 9/11, because I remember I was here, and the Republican National Convention was in Cleveland, I believe in 2012, I think. And, you know, Thierry Baudet is there. Geert Wilders was there in Cleveland. And you're like... In Cleveland. Wow. And you're like, oh, these dudes are aligned the world over. For them, it's war. Democrats, you know, the left wing, we want to go on vacation and they don't understand this shit is a fight. And you got to fight for the world you want. I would like to be an anarchist, but I don't believe in people. I think anarchy will last for 8 minutes till someone comes and seizes power, because that's how we are. So it's a fight. You can't have anarchy. You can't trust. Someone out there is going to want to seize power, as we see right now. And not just a majority, but absolute authority.
Yeah.
Dominion.
Dictatorship completely.
Suzerainty over everybody. Yeah. And you're like, so that's what we're seeing, and you're seeing it. I mean,
it's quite interesting that the people in power have so much wealth at their disposal, like personal wealth that they built. It's absolutely daunting. Like,
I forget the one lady. She was the former Speaker of the House,
Nancy Pelosi. Yeah, Nancy Pelosi. She became like she's ultra rich from inside trading.
Yeah, she's inside trader, and you're like, what? I think. I mean, again, someone had asked me, like, if I were president, which is a great song, good skit by The Far Side, you know, what would I do? And I'm like, yo, there'd be no you can't have lobbyism. It's knocked out. We can't have a electoral college. Done.
Yeah.
One vote, one person. Remember, like in gym class on an open Friday, and they'd be like, "Hey, what game do you guys want to play? Everyone who wants to play basketball, raise your hand. Everyone who wants to play dodgeball, raise your hand." And if there was a tie, there was a revote.
Yeah.
Everything gets convoluted so that they can more easily screw us over.
Yeah, the electoral college is a very interesting concept.
Oh, it's an evil thing, and you're just like, dude, how? And then let's not even talk about how they in D.C. you can't vote for the president.
No resident.
No, the residents of D.C. cannot vote in a federal election.
So how many millions of votes are being casted away?
It's at least like 900,000.
Okay. So,
you know,
that can tip.
D.C.'s roughly the same population as Amsterdam. So, I mean, but you say, oh, it's 900,000. Yeah, but that's more people than like the two Dakotas and Wyoming. And
that could tip an election. Like,
yeah, it definitely could. So, you know, it's bad seeing it from afar, being, you know, having been raised as an American. Not so much it's embarrassing because I didn't vote for the dude, you know, but it's perplexing that these folks are voting against their better interests, their own actual socioeconomic standard and state. And it's like, I put the challenge out there. Why did you vote for him? Is it a reason that had nothing to do with xenophobia, racism, sexism, hatred, and just a huge swath of stupidity? And if it isn't, please let me know. I've never heard anyone come with a salient response to that. No one. Like, they was like, yeah, well, the Democrats, it's not what I asked you. Your platform cannot be, I don't like what they're doing.
Yeah.
What do you stand for? So I used to like the Black Panther Party a lot. I still do. But what I really love with the Black Panther Party for self-defense was they had a manifesto. What do you guys believe? Well, it's written there. We got 10-point platform. So there's no guessing. What does Trump stand for? None of those people could tell you.
No.
But they were all voting for some reason, and it was pretty much a reactionary thing.
It was so echo-chambered, also so echo-chambered. Yeah. Everybody was just in their own little bubbles that weren't really connected to reality, and then that came out. I remember having a conversation with a Democrat, like that actually lives here in Amsterdam, and he was like, "Oh, she's gonna win by a landslide." It was and then I heard the same kind of like talking points of the women with the abortion and none of it is going to matter, but they forgot podcasting. They forgot how the actions that Trump took, going to the biggest podcasts in the world, appealing to young white Americans from 18 till 25 that can vote.
Right.
Like basically grifting all these votes to his direction. That is what tipped it. Because when he said that thing, this friend of mine that I was sitting with, I was like, wow, you're completely out of touch. And then the results came out, and I was pretty shocked by how different it was than a lot of what people perceived.
Right, and you would even think like, wow, this has been festering. Well, you just had basically his term, then 4 more years. He gets back in. And then let's not also count the Obama years where he was totally active in building this base. Yeah. So for 16 years, we've been dealing with this.
Yeah.
And you're kind of like, well, what world do they want? They want the good old days, right? Well, what are the good old days?
1950.
Where I had to go to a different bathroom.
Exactly.
What are your good old days? Like, what do you want? I mean, he's literally trying to delete Black history.
Yeah.
And you're like, so what's going on? And I really think that the Democrats have to reassess. I'm a socialist. I'm a communalist, man. So I like what Bernie and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez are doing. I think she's presidential. A lot of people say, well, she's too far left. I'm like, yeah, well, we need to balance this ship.
Yeah.
Because now this is the worst thing I've seen in the Western world since the Nazis. I'll say it. some people will think I'm crazy. This is not, I don't want my nieces to grow up in a world like this. You know, they're over there. They're affected by this.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, my mom telling me, like, yeah, groceries are 3 times the amount they were in December. Students, and I wonder, like, are they trying to destroy the economy so they can swoop in and buy everything and be absolute rulers? And let's not even begin with Elon Musk, the biggest welfare recipient on the planet of Earth. But somehow these guys have become heroes. And I'm not really sure what's going on with people's norms and their ethics. I just don't see it.
I think this is the old, that old tale of just people that have power want more power.
It must, and it's funny because having re-ups about me selling, but after a while I was just like, dude, I'm done. Like, I quit. I don't need more. I need to do something else. I need meaning. And see, like, my personality is not defined by my job. I'm an artist. I'm a creator. And you know how it is. And could you imagine going your whole life? You can't create nothing. I'm not talking about a kid. Any schmuck can do that. But, like, really creating beauty.
Yeah.
Creating art, music, and the autotelic reward that comes from that. Just the process of creating something. Imagine you don't create nothing. And all you're doing is looking at what you don't have and what you can't do. And you see people who can. And can you imagine the spite that would build up within you?
Fuck, man. Sure.
That's
a dark life.
It's a dark life.
Yeah,
and I see a lot of darkness now. And you know how it is. Hopefully, there's always adverse effects and reactions. And maybe this is a wake-up call to see that we'll see these dudes weren't playing, man. And I understand people, I come from a country where it's 2 parties. The States is hilarious. We like choice except for in politics. You've been down an American supermarket cereal aisle, right?
It's completely overwhelming.
There's 365 different types of cereal.
It's absurd, yeah.
2 political parties.
Exactly. That's so crazy. The binary, like, they don't want things binary. They want as many options as possible. But then, exactly when it comes to politics, and it's so black and white. Also.
It's so black and white, and it creates this craziness where, I mean, you have, like, on the Republicans, you have, like, a fiscal conservative who, sure, I can talk to you guys, but then they'll align themselves with straight up Nazis for votes. But you're like, you're a Nazi. Yeah, whatever. I'll roll with you.
But that's another thing. It's all about the vote. It's about the popularity. Because it's all about popularity. It doesn't matter if you're a skinhead or if you're a Black Panther. It doesn't matter for them. It doesn't matter because you're going to cast the vote. You're going to go and put the ballot in. For them, they don't care. And then afterwards comes the truth. It's always the empty promises are always there. But people were I think they were so embroiled with this whole, like, Biden losing his mind, dementia, you can't count on him, you can't talk, can't form sentences.
Yeah.
And then they see this guy that looks like he can carry himself, he talks business, he can save America. And then, of course, he is going to win by a landslide. Yeah. Regardless of him fulfilling it or not. They don't care.
But that's the thing. That's when you got to be realistic with yourself about who you are and your potential. And they should have told Biden, look, you won this one, bro. You're not running again.
No.
We got to prime somebody else for you. If it is Kamala, let's start working on that years prior. Yeah. And I mean,
the fact that it was a little bit, the fact that it was a little bit like a coup, almost like just taking him out of the race, putting her. I don't think it rubbed on people the right way.
No, it looked, but hey, man, the Democrats, they do it to themselves. Remember, Bernie won the popular vote. And here's another thing I would do away with: super delegates in the Democratic Party. Bernie won that.
Yeah.
Of course, who knows? I think Bernie could have defeated Trump that first outing. But then they ran one of the most disliked politicians from one of the most disliked political families, Clinton, because, hey, she was owed the election. She was owed the presidency. And not to be, I mean, I don't shy from controversy. Not such a great idea to run women against this guy.
No.
Because he's so lewd and rude and disrespectful that his base eats it up.
Yeah.
And they just can't really. I mean, we're in the WWF mode of election now. Like, you can't play by these old rules.
Yeah, absolutely. The fact that he went and, like I said in the beginning, and did all the biggest podcasts and just, and I'm talking comedians. I'm not talking about no CNN. Forget about these channels.
Going on that.
This is chump change compared to the amount of reach that Joe Rogan has.
Yeah.
Andrew Schultz, Theo Von. And
I'm going on all that.
Exactly, and they put him hundreds of millions of views. And then it looked different. He looked way more empowered.
And it's actually, in a very evil way, it's pretty intelligent. It's good strategy.
Yeah.
To win an election. So, I don't know. But it's crazy, this onslaught of authoritarianism that's gone on since January. Unreal. So, we'll see. I don't know. I mean, starting to look like the 60s a little, isn't it?
It does, actually,
right?
to be honest.
It's pretty reminiscent of that. And,
yeah.
In the 30s.
Exactly. But then it's completely on steroids because of social media and how information is traveling so quick. Everybody's getting the information into their phones within fractions of a second,
I had to delete the New York Times app off my phone.
I understand.
Because I can't do it. Like, literally.
Yeah.
His name and Musk.
Yeah.
Every headline.
Yeah, because they're trying to grift viewers. They can't handle they're like legacy media, and they're tanking. Their numbers are tanking.
Yeah,
right now.
And I mean, once we lose like true journalism, it's over.
Yeah.
Like it's really scary. So, hey man, America, y'all making me religious. I'm praying for y'all. y'all need to see the light, man, and the path you on right now. It's not, and that's the thing. People are sitting over there and they don't know what people elsewhere think. Man, the world thinks they're clowns, and I think the nuanced individual realizes it isn't everyone, but the general thought of the country now. It's people are disappointed, people are angry, people are scared. They don't know what's going on. And unfortunately, what happens in the States affects the world.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It does.
As a direct
They're the
effect,
empire. And for better or for worse. And right now, it definitely seems for worse. So come on, y'all, get it together.
Yeah.
This is not the way forward. We live on a planet, not a country.
I have a last question that I have for you that I always find interesting. If you could sit with CHAD that just came to Amsterdam 16 years ago, what for a cup of coffee or a beer or whatever it is that you want to drink with that, young, unhinged guy that came here, what would be the advice you would give yourself?
Ooh, great question. Never been asked that over here, actually. Well, firstly, we'll definitely be drinking beer in Young Geneva. Loosen up a little. I would say, for one, don't take things so personal. Firstly, that would probably be my first thing. Secondly, I would probably say lose your definitions. Not lose them, but keep them in the back pocket and see, watch. Observe more than you talk. I would definitely say play the game more. Don't try to be such an outlier and rebel without any cause. I would also say that you don't have to say everything you think.
That's the rebel without a cause.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, it doesn't matter. Nobody really cares. Yeah, look. Even in the cloudy country, look for the sunny days and focus on that instead of focusing on the, the rainy day. Really, like I like to say, count your blessings and not your stressings.
Yeah.
I would say that. I would say give an accessible friend an extra pair of bike keys. Yeah, and then kind of just keep doing what you're doing. But always try to contribute and be fair, be right, which I think I did. But no, you can never hear that too much. And then I would say, do better with your Dutch classes.
Get the language together.
Yeah, get the language together, bro. Like, yeah, I would have said that most definitely. But I think, that's about it. Not it, but that's what I can think of off the top, and just but really just keep it. You got to keep that positivity going. And you can tell by the way I
exactly. Yes.
I would tell them listen to more Bee Gees.
Yeah, exactly. That was such a good moment.
But that's the thing. Like, it's corny, but you really do gotta be positive in life, because that negativity just breeds more negativity. And I'm not saying don't be realistic, but I think for a while I was quite depressed.
Man, I gotta. Sorry that I cut you.
Don't be sorry.
I gotta add to that. The other day I was going for a jog, which helps a lot of that positive thing, just get the sweat going. And then I was thinking, man, I need to be more positive. You know what? This is an illusion anyway. We're delusional about so much. Why not just have a nice delusion,
Yeah.
Be positive. I'm not saying, like you said, don't be realistic and tell yourself, illusionary stories about who you are and stuff. Be realistic also, but that story of being positive, that story of actually waking up and thinking, I like what I'm doing, I like my life. Even if you need to lie to yourself for a moment, it's worth it more than just going down that rabbit hole of just depression and negativity. Because it's really, which wolf are you feeding?
Yeah.
To that level.
No doubt. And lying to yourself works. Look at all the Trump voters.
Yeah. I saw this great sketch. I saw this amazing sketch from Shane Gillis about Trump shoes, that he puts the Trump shoes, and whatever happens to him, he's the greatest. He's having sex with someone. She's like, oh, it was a bit short. No, it was the greatest.
No. And he does it. He has the lowest ratings. I just saw, he was like, no, best ratings ever for any president in 100 days. America's almost great again. I mean,
after 4 years, people are like hunting each other in the street. It's like, America has never been better.
It's going to be like Cormac McCarthy, The Road, in 4 years. And they're like, it's so good. Look at you.
The Hunger Games. You know?
Exactly. But that's it. But that positivity, that's a good one, like, to pump out. It's tough, but it's real.
Yeah.
Like you said, wake up. There's a saying, like, people like, oh, I woke up and chose anger. You know what I'm saying? And you really do.
It's true.
You wake up and you're like, I chose.
It's true. It's true. And it needs to get to this point, like, at least with me, it got to this, like, there has to be a different way.
There has to be.
Like, I can't continue this. It's, like, insane. Like, it's just, because it's really the thing of, where do you allocate your focus and your mental resources to,
Yeah.
There's a plethora of negativity out there that you can just consume and consume and consume. But there's also that positivity. And I realize, for myself at least, it takes practice, because it's so easy to just be like, but this is problematic. Yeah, but I need to work on that. It's like, I think for myself it's growth mindset, but what I'm doing actually is I'm kind of tripping myself on things that are not really in my control.
Yeah, that's actually to add to the list of things I would have told young Chad, the rapper, young Chad. I would have said, start reading Stoicism. Start studying that.
Oh, nice.
You know,
Nice,
like really,
nice.
because then you said it. What can you control? Now, I'm not saying I don't care about what's going on in the world. I'm not saying that. But it's like, I see folks, and I was like it for a time. It's kind of why I don't do so much online anymore. That folks, they're torn up about some stuff that they can't control or influence and doesn't actually directly affect them.
No.
You can't let that happen, because now you're walking around in a bad mood because of what's happening in another part of the world.
Exactly. Which you have zero control over. And
You do, right? And it's like being on the plane, man. And they say when the masks come down, you got to put the mask on yourself first before you can help anyone else. You can't be putting the mask on you're an FD. You trying to put a mask on somebody in 24H. You can't do it. You got to work with what's around, the people who are with you. And then do you want to be miserable around your kids, around your wife, around your friends, to everyone you see? And I'm not saying I'm perfect. Definitely not. But I try. This is the mentality I try to do. And every day you wake up, have that hustler spirit. Yeah. Oh, it's a new day to make it happen. Make something happen, to do a little better than I did the day before. And then go to bed and wake up and repeat.
Day, CHAD Bilyeu, it was awesome having you.
It was great.
Man.
Yeah, it was an honor.
Thank you so much. CHAD in Amsterdam here. And the re-up here. It's very, I can't wait to read it, man. Thank you so much.
Cool. Thanks for having me.
gracing us with your
awesome.
presence here in the studio. We're going to drop all the links, of course, for your shop, for everything.
Sweet.
Is there anything else you want to say directly to the camera?
Be nice.
You heard him here. Be nice. Thank you, everybody, for joining us for Into the Score. We're going to see you at the bookstore. We're going to see you at the comic store. Follow us, like, subscribe, everything, and catch you later.